This in-service animation has been prepared to assist you with the correct implantation technique of the Codman CereLink Sensor Ventricular Catheter Kit. This animation is not intended to replace the product inserts. Rather, it is to be used along with the product inserts as a training aid. Please refer to the product inserts and read the sections on contraindications, warnings, and cautions. The ventricular catheter kit is designed for intraventricular pressure monitoring and CSF drainage. Before getting started, you will need the following items to complete the procedure. 1. Cranial access kit. 2. The CereLink ICP monitor. 3. The CereLink power cable. 4. The CereLink ICP sensor extension cable that allows connection to the ICP sensor. 5. Codman CereLink ICP Sensor Ventricular Catheter Kit. 1. Zeroing of the ICP sensor. The ICP sensor must be zeroed to atmospheric pressure prior to implantation. First, switch on the monitor. Connect the ICP extension cable to the yellow connector on the CereLink. The extension cable connector tab and arrows should face forward, in the same direction as the CereLink screen. Push the yellow connector into the yellow port until you hear a click. If you need to disconnect it at any time, this connection uses a pullback release mechanism and not a twist lock. Whilst maintaining a sterile technique, connect the ICP sensor to the ICP extension cable. Once the sensor is connected, the CereLink monitor will play a sound and will also display a 0 symbol. Press the Home tab on the CereLink monitor. Then press the 0 sensor tab on the CereLink monitor. Using sterile technique, lay at least a 5 cm section of the sensor horizontally just under the surface of the sterile water or sterile saline. Do not submerge the tip of the ICP sensor vertically in a deep pool of sterile water or sterile saline. Doing this will impose a hydrostatic pressure on the ICP sensor diaphragm that is higher than atmospheric pressure, resulting in an inaccurate 0 reference. Hold the sensor still without applying any external pressure to the tip apart from the sterile saline. If the device senses the sensor is moving, a 0 button will not be available. Press the Ready to Zero tab. You will note a 0 in progress on the screen. When sensor zeroing has been successful, the date and time will be displayed on the screen. During this zeroing process, the ICP monitor automatically stores the 0 reference value in a memory element embedded in the ICP sensor. This feature allows the user to reconnect the ICP sensor to the same or a different ICP monitor without having to readjust the 0 reference value. Press the Accept button on the lower right portion of the screen to return to the main screen. Now the ICP sensor is ready for implantation. 2. Preparation for sensor implantation. Codman's Cranial Access Kit includes all the necessary components to create the initial access hole for ICP monitoring. When making the initial access hole using an aseptic technique, begin by hair clipping, prepping, and draping the patient. Make the necessary incision and retract the scalp to expose the skull. Now select the 5.8 mm drill bit for ventriculostomy procedures. Please note that the 5.8 mm drill bit is not included in the ICP ventricular catheter kit. This drill bit will need to be purchased separately or is included in the Codman Cranial Access Kit. Place the bit into the chuck, then hold the drill handle in place and turn the chuck counterclockwise to tighten the bit. Next, loosen the drill depth guide with the appropriate hex wrench and carefully slide the drill guide towards the tip of the bit until the desired skull depth is reached. It is important to note that the drill guide will not stop the drill. It is designed only to provide the neurosurgeon with a marker for drilling depth. Finally, tighten the drill guide in place with a hex wrench and begin drilling. Open the dura with an appropriate needle or blade. 3. Sensor implantation. The ICP sensor ventricular catheter kit includes a 38 cm ventricular catheter with an integrated stylet and intracranial pressure ICP sensor, a catheter anchoring clip, and a 7-gauge tunneling trocar. Gently bevel the burr hole on one side to allow the catheter to exit without a sharp angulation. Insert the tip of the catheter into the end of the clear tubing of the tunneling trocar until the tubing is filled. Use the tunneling trocar to tunnel the ventricular catheter under the scalp to the craniotomy site. The point of entry can be any convenient location, at least 3 cm from the burr hole. Due to the rigidity of the integrated stylet, it is advisable to limit tunneling to 7 cm in order to have sufficient catheter length for insertion into the ventricle. Continue to advance the trocar until the trocar and the clear tubing exit the scalp at the burr hole. Remove the tunneling trocar and tubing from the ventricular catheter. Pull the tunneled ventricular catheter toward the craniotomy site until the Y connector almost touches the initial tunneling entrance. Holding the ventricular catheter at a right angle to the skull, advance the catheter into the lateral ventricle to the desired depth. To verify ventricular placement, observe CSF flowing through the catheter. The black arrows indicate the portion of the ventricular catheter that has been slit for stylet removal. Holding the ventricular catheter, bend the catheter to the side opposite the 2 black arrows to expose approximately 3 cm of the catheter stylet. Holding the ventricular catheter firmly in place, gently withdraw the stylet. Remove any excess catheter from the burr hole by gently pulling back on the ventricular catheter when it exits the scalp incision. Place the catheter clip over the ventricular catheter at the exit site. Suture the clip to the scalp. Close and dress the incision. Additional sutures may be placed through the holes in the catheter Y connector. If desired, attach the drainage port of the ventricular catheter to an appropriate external drainage system, such as AccuDrain. Attach any off-the-shelf ECG electrode to the patient per ECG electrode's instructions for use. ECG electrodes should be applied only to intact, clean skin. For example, not over open wounds, lesions, infected or inflamed areas. Attach the patient lead of the extension cable connector to the ECG electrode. Secure the patient lead of the extension cable to prevent tension on the ECG electrode. Precaution: the patient lead of the extension cable must always be attached to the patient via an ECG electrode to ensure reliable performance of the sensor. 4. Removal of the ventricular catheter. Using an aseptic technique, remove any holding sutures around the ventricular catheter site. Carefully withdraw the ventricular catheter until completely removed. Check that the ventricular catheter and CereLink sensor are complete on removal. Apply pressure with sterile gauze until hemostasis is achieved. Close the incision again in one layer with uninterrupted sutures. Apply a dry, sterile dressing.